from day to day.
Rachel,
No, many of our
I didn't mute my mic when I went back on. They go, hey, what was that noise?
Under the
What was
agendas,
that?
I see one that
Then
said
Chris texts me, goes, Pat, your
Hey,
mic was
Pat.
hot.
Pat, your mic's not on, just so you know, we can all hear you.
Mr. Wild,
Yes.
you guys can go ahead. I just wanted to point out that when you're screen sharing, we cannot see anything here.
Oh, you can't see anything. So I'm sorry. I'll stop screen sharing then, if I can
Thank
figure
you,
out how to
Mr.
do
Wild.
that.
We're all set to start whenever you'd like to.
Thank you. I'd like to call this the Economic Development Planning, etc. Committee meeting together. We do have a quorum, from what I understand. Amanda, can you confirm?
Yes.
Thank you. So first order of business to approve the minutes from our last meeting. I'll take a second for that motion. Supervisor McGowan with a first, Supervisor Leggett with the second. I'm sorry, I can only see a segment of the screen. Any changes to that before we call the question? With that, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And opposed?
Aye.
That is carried. So I did have the agenda up. It is jam-packed, so I've actually asked everyone to do this and go through their topics as efficiently as possible. So just to get started, there's no decisions that are going to be made today. This is all basically information for the public and information for the supervisors. It is in part about our economic recovery, but it also includes various aspects of what's going on to support our workforce and other activities. So with that in mind, I'm going to just start it off and call Sarah to talk to us about the first couple of topics, one being the census and the second being the COVID hub that she's put together. Next up will be Chris Duffy with Judy Anaronic, and then Ed with the EDC. So Sarah, if you don't mind.
Okay, I'm gonna try to share my screen here. Okay, so I just wanted to give, can everybody see the screen okay?
Yes.
Okay, just wanted to give everybody a quick update as to what's happening with the census. Here are our current response rates. This is as of the 19th. So nationwide, we're at a little over 50% response rate. New York is about 44.8%. Warren County is lower at 38.6%. So Glens Falls and Queensbury are doing really well. We're very happy with that because historically in prior censuses, the response rate in Glens Falls has been a little challenging. So we're feeling good about our outreach efforts in Glens Falls, producing good effects. The rest of the county, especially Bolton, Hagen, Horicon, are really struggling there in the teens. And then we've got a chunk in the middle that are in the higher teens up to low 30s, and then Warrensburg's kind of right in the middle. So I'd love to continue trying to get especially Bolton, Hagen, Horicon, see if we can get them up a bit, and Johnsburg and Chester. Thank you to all of the supervisors. I know many of you have posted on your website. I'm appreciative of that. Here's obviously our outreach activities have been very much modified by the coronavirus situation, but we didn't get our state grant funding. So that was disappointing, but we do have a little bit of money that was set aside by the county. So we're about have used most of that, but we're trying to parcel it out carefully as we continue with our outreach. So we're continuing with social media outreach. We're posting every single weekday on Facebook and Instagram. So we have Sidekick Creative is doing a custom post each week. We've had some difficulty with Facebook. They have not, there was a long stretch where they were not allowing us to boost the post, which is essentially sending out the post as an ad to all of the county residents. Unfortunately, there was a period. I think they're dealing with so much misinformation with coronavirus. They're just completely swamped, and their mechanism for approving posts has kind of fallen apart. So we've had to go through a really tedious process of trying to get approved to boost posts. But that, thankfully, we've come to the end of it, and we should be able to be back boosting posts this week. So our intention is to continue to boost one post a week through the end of June. And we'll do that. Some of the posts we'll do to the whole county, and some we'll do to targeted areas with lower response rates. So, you know, the northern towns will target and make sure that we can get the word out that way. We also developed some custom 4x9 postcards. They're double-sided. They're targeted specifically to our county residents, giving them information about how they can respond, especially if they haven't received a census invitation in the mail. Also answering some questions for seasonal residents. So far, we've distributed those. The United Way has helped distribute those to the area food pantries. They'll be going in the Salvation Army food delivery office for the aging. We'll be including them in their meal delivery. Glens Falls School District also in their meal delivery. We'd also like to provide them to any town who would like them. I know both Johnsburg and Chester have requested cards, and we'll bring those up and deliver them. We also got 50 lawn signs printed, and we're going to start putting those out this week throughout the county. So this right here is the front and back of the rack card here on either side of this text. So as you can see, it just gives some basic information about how to respond, what to do if you haven't gotten an invitation, what to do if you're a seasonal resident. So here's some things that we'd love the towns to do to help get the word out. Post reminders on your website. I know a number of you have done that already. I think it really does make a difference. Share our posts, our social media posts on Facebook and Instagram if you have accounts. If you can distribute those 4x9 cards by any means you have possible, whether it's through your school, meal delivery, or mailing them, or any other means possible, I think getting those cards distributed would be great. Chris Belden in our office, I believe, has gotten in touch with most of the town supervisors about the lawn signs, so we will begin placing those this week in most of the towns that allow them. We'd also like to encourage towns, if they have digital signs, to post a message about responding to the census on those digital signs in your town, whether they be at the school or the town hall, or any local businesses who might have digital signs. There's some graphics and templates for digital signs, as well as a whole bunch of other things in that Census Outreach toolkit that I emailed to all of you a few weeks ago. If you misplaced that, you need another copy, just let me know and I can send that along to you. Also, Supervisor Hogan had asked if we'd be willing to give a presentation to her online town hall meeting on this coming Friday morning. So we're going to do that. If any other towns are interested in having a quick census presentation, also did this during a digital third ward forum with Claudia. So if anybody is interested in that, just let us know and we're happy to do it. Any questions about the census? Okay. Can I move on to the website?
Thank you, Sarah. Awesome. We just have to figure out more pressure on the right, pulling their weight with the numbers that are so important.
Yeah, it's really critical. This affects our funding tremendously. So it's really important that we get a full count, especially as we go into the recovery. We want to make sure that we're getting all the money we can get. So anything anybody can do to help get the word out is really important. Okay. So I'm just going to spend a few minutes talking about the new website.
Excuse me, hang on, Mike. Sorry, I was muted.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Supervisor McGowan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, one of the things I noticed, who put out the mailer, the blue card? a blue card came in the mailer, and one I think it was a mailing, an envelope that you opened up and you read, and then the blue card came in for a reminder.
Yeah, that's the Census Bureau sent those out.
All right. That's when I signed up, you know, when the second one came out to remind me, and it was, I don't remember that 10 years ago. So I think that was, to do it online. It was so easy to do.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I, you know, will the census send out another one, or is that enough, mailing on that one?
Yeah, so they sent out an invitation to most households in the county the week of April 12th. That was the one that had your code in it and told you how you could respond. And then for all households who hadn't responded, in that first week, they sent out another reminder postcard. And then last week, for any household that still hadn't responded, they sent out a paper questionnaire. So all households who received mail delivery should have received a paper questionnaire by now in the mail. So there's the option to respond by mail using that paper questionnaire online, which is very easy and quick, or by phone. So there's a phone number that you can call and you can just talk to an enumerator on the phone. One of the problems that we have in Warren County, though, in the North Country, is that some of the areas in the county did not receive mail delivery. There's a process called update leave, where basically the Census Bureau hand delivers the invitation. So many parts of the county were supposed to have a hand delivered invitation, and that operation was stopped after 4 days in Warren County because of the coronavirus situation. So not everybody in Warren County received an invitation. So especially I think in, you know, Bolton, Hague, Horicon, Johnsburg, some of those towns where we're seeing low response rates, not everybody has received an invitation. They didn't receive a reminder, and they didn't receive the hard copy questionnaire because of the suspension of that update leave operation. So that's why we really, really want to try to get those postcards out to them. They can still respond to the census, even if they didn't receive the notice. Even without an invitation, the invitation has a code in it, but you can still respond to the census even without that code. So we need to get that message out, especially to our North Country towns.
Yeah, another thing, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, and what I liked is afterwards you could download this. It was a confirmation that they received your census with a confirmation code. About yay long, but that was a plus. So thank you, sir.
Okay.
Sarah, thank you. And actually, I have a note from Gina Mincer at the Lake George Chamber, who happens to be on also. She's offering to be able to do some outreach from her office also. So I can hook you up with her. But let's move forward to the COVID hub, is considering we're over our 10-minute limit already with the number first one. So let's try to keep moving forward.
So here's the new COVID hub website that went up a couple weeks ago. So I'm thinking probably many of you have looked at this, but I wanted to just give a quick run through. So this is linked off of the main front page of the Warren County website.
Well, I'm sorry, I can't see it. Can anyone else see Sarah sharing the web screen?
You can't see it? Okay, let me see.
Refresh.
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay, maybe it's just me.
Can people see it?
No, I'm still on the
You're on the
census.
census.
Okay. Hang on and let me see if I can figure out how to switch this over here.
Sarah, maybe stop and a reshare. And just so everyone knows, this was
Okay.
basically Sarah's idea to come out with a website for us to be able to assemble all the information that's going on at the county and other agencies to just have a one-stop shop for what we're doing. So Sarah, go right ahead.
Okay, so here's the front page that just has our helpline information, just a brief, update on the county services, businesses, residents, and then here is all the daily updates every day. So this is the email that Dawn sends out every day. Just update this every day. All the previous updates are here. So there's an archive. And then we have the social media feeds. So these are Dawn's Twitter and Facebook are right here at the bottom of this page. There's the COVID-19 page. So there's a sign up for the emails from Dawn. Again, the helplines. This is the case update here we have. So this is the information that's from public health. And then I just have some graphs here.
Sarah, could I ask you to pause your screen just for a second? At the board meeting, I mentioned something to the effect that we don't necessarily control when we can open. It's going to be the governor that's going to have a big influence on that, but we can't influence. If you look at the graph on the left, hopefully it means we're plateauing. But if that means we're still rising, we'll have much more difficult time convincing the governor that Warren County is ready to be open. So this is what I was alluding to. And Sarah, go ahead. But that's just one of the points I wanted to make with this piece of data.
Okay. Information about testing. The information about masks is here. This is our virtual family assistance center that the Office of Community Services put together. We have an educational video from the hospital, and then a whole bunch of links. CDC, Department of Health, Warren County Public Health, lots of advice on coping with stress. We have a resources for residents page. So I'm trying to put latest news information up here. I know there's been issues with people getting their stimulus checks. So I have a link here for how to make sure that you've given the IRS your updated information. And then lots of helpful information here. This is the public Wi-Fi locations that Claudia initiated. So we have a map here of all the public Wi-Fi locations, information on getting getting help from and donating to local nonprofits. Right here we have a link to a map of all of the food pantries in both Warren and Washington counties with information about hours, different procedures because of coronavirus, and all of the contact information for all the food pantries. Some updated information about SNAP, updated information about filing for unemployment benefits, how to support our hospital workers, mental health, instructions on making masks, and then just lots of information for children, seniors, job seekers, some information from employment training on online classes, information about supporting our local businesses. So I have a link here to the Post-Star has put together a directory of local businesses can purchase gift cards. There's also information from the chamber, the Lake George Chamber, about purchasing local food and craft beverages. And then of course our Taste of Optimism campaign. We created a map to go along with that, of all the restaurant locations. Information about our recreation mapper, safely visiting our parks and trails, some information about how to digitally check out books from both our local libraries and the New York Public Library. And then just lots of other fun things to do in this section. Some things tourism has put together about online local experiences, a link to the history mapper, some fun coloring that Glens Falls Living and Sidekick Creative have put together, fishing information, and a map of all the stocking locations. How to add this lovely virtual background to your meeting, and then information about our Trails Pledge. And then we have a page of resources for businesses. So tried to put together information, again, latest news of what's happening. Obviously, things are changing quickly, so trying to keep this up to date. Lots of information here from both Lake George Chamber and Adirondack Regional Chamber of Commerce. Information about the CARES Act, all of our local economic development corporations, and New York options, as well as federal options for loans, Paycheck Protection Program, information about tax deadline extensions, our shared work program and rapid response for Warren County Employment and Training. This is a recorded conversation that Adirondack Regional Chamber of Commerce had with our legislators. So there's a link to that, that conversation that happened a week or two ago. A number of surveys that local organizations have put together to try to get a handle on how business is being impacted, stress management. And then we'll have an additional link coming hopefully later today or tomorrow about the mask initiative. So that will just be an additional link up here with information about the mask initiative. And that's it.
Thanks, Sarah. I think that's pretty awesome. Do you have, we've talked about a shortened website or web address to get to this. Is that?
So, yeah, we've done that already. It's warrencountiny.ny.gov. So just the regular Warren County website /COVID hub. So that's the short link to get to it.
Awesome. Awesome. I think this is pretty amazing. Any comments from the committee or anyone else on the line? Any suggestions in terms of what Sarah could add? I suggest we just reach out to Sarah and have her consider what else we can put on this, but there's been a lot of work into it and I think it's pretty amazing. And keep up the good work, Sarah.
No, I would just like to comment, Mr. Chairman. Sarah, that's amazing. Thank you. A beautiful job.
Thank you. And thank you to Rachel too for getting us moving with this. I appreciate it.
We've
Thanks,
actually had a
Sarah.
lot.
I recognize that there's a lot that goes into this from all the different departments, including our PR and tourism. And Sarah, the fact that we were able to see this at a national level and to know that you were already on top of it and could just upgrade so easily with our point of contact, I think it really speaks to your connections in the community, but also your ability to work with every one of those departments. And time again, I hear from our community members how helpful this resource is. So you definitely hit it out of the park, but so did every single staff member that have been committed and continue to commit to giving you the information, to learning how to do it, and to keeping it updated for business recovery as we move forward. So thank you again.
Yeah, everybody's been so cooperative in getting information quickly, and tourism was a big help with providing images. So I'm really quickly with that too. So I'm very appreciative for everybody's help. Okay, I'm gonna stop the share.
Fantastic. Thank you. Next up, Dr. Duffy, are you still there?
I am. Yes. Good afternoon, everyone. Nice to see lots of faces. I will be brief, although I could have a lot to share, but just feel confident that we have about 3,400 students still learning and will be completing their spring semester. That includes all the students that take our courses in the high school. Just like everyone else has done in this crisis, our faculty and staff have done amazing work to pivot to entirely different delivery of our classes as well as our services. We've loaned out hundreds of devices to students who don't have technology at home. We've worked with many students to identify ways to increase their broadband access, their internet access, so that they could complete their studies. To be honest, there's a lot of students still struggling, just like there are in our communities for all kinds of reasons. But we continue, our student success staff in cooperation with the faculty have identified students very quickly. We've reached out to probably every single student in our enrollment, as well as our employees, to do check-ins to see how they're doing, not only just in their classes, but navigating this new normal. We have moved all of our summer enrollment on a remote instruction model as well, in preparation that No matter when the recovery is, it'll be different. So we've already made that decision. And right now we are making multiple contingency plans for the fall, trying to identify as many issues as possible so that we can be prepared for multiple ways for us to reopen based on guidelines from, of course, our public health officials. The CARES Act money that I'm sure you've read about, we are eligible to receive $2.5 million, which is based on the percentage of Pell students that we serve. Just as an aside, we serve 65% of our students receive Pell, which means 65% of our students are considered at the lowest income level. And so, as you can imagine, that we are very concerned about the impact that has on our students in general. And then, of course, when you layer on this public health crisis. So we are awaiting guidance from the Department of Education. In fact, I have a call at 2:00. I'm hoping we'll get more information to help us in making the determination of how those funds will be allocated. Half of them must go directly to students. The other half is expected to come to the institution. We don't know a lot about the institutional money yet. We're focused on the student aid right now, and we'll do our best to spread out those funds to our neediest students across our service area. We continue to develop our budget for next year. The state budget did not yield much of anything for us except a decrease. So we're planning accordingly. And just like every other agency of the state, we're expecting that there probably will be some continued cuts that we're trying to prepare for, both in this current budget year as well as next year. And our most important issue right now is to try to keep our costs as low as possible for students, expecting that students might find themselves in even more difficult financial situations come fall. So we're working closely with our Board of Trustees. We're taking every measure you can imagine to cut our expenses and also make sure that we continue to focus forward on our enrollment. And we have everyone on hands on deck of helping to enroll students for the summer and the fall, regardless of what way we'll be delivering our instruction. So, even though we had to postpone our in-person commencement ceremony, we are planning a pretty cool virtual ceremony that we're still looking at dates at this point, but we want to make sure we honor the students that have worked so hard to complete their degree this year. And so we'll be planning some type of virtual opportunity to engage our students and families. And I have more I could talk about, but I'll stop there and answer any questions that people might have.
Thank you, Chris. Any questions? Dr. Duffy, thank you. You have a couple more minutes if you'd like to go on.
Well, so let's see here. Some really positive things that have come out of this, just like you've seen in the community. A good crisis certainly reveals the strong human side of everyone. But we also were part of, we've donated significant amount of masks, gowns, and some goggles to both Glens Falls Hospital and Saratoga Hospital, more to Glens Falls. We have 2 faculty members, one in our early college program, one in that's our full-time faculty on campus, who are using 3D printers to create protective shields and are donating those. So we're seeing a lot of goodwill around campus, and of course also trying to support the health of our community. And like I said, our big challenge right now is figuring out how we want to prepare for reopening in the fall. And as I said, we have multiple contingency plans that we'll be preparing. So that's all I have for now.
Thank you, Dr. Duffy. There will be some discussions going forward. For
Stay healthy, be well. I'm going to sign off.
Thanks
Bye.
again. Thank you.
Yep.
Mr. Bartholomew.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. How are you today?
Well, it was supposed to be morning, but we'll get there eventually.
Yeah, that's right here. So we are moving right along in conjunction with Mr. Biddle from ARCC on a number of fronts. And I'm going to kind of give an overview on the funding aspects of where we are. And then Michael will give a little bit more specifics. But essentially, as we all know, that by last Thursday, the money for the payroll protection plan expired. And out of that came the revelations that the small businesses of sole proprietorships only essentially had less than a week to apply from the following Thursday. And by the time it got to the next Thursday, it was done. They ran out of money. So one of the major discussions was to figure out in Washington how that this could be a continuation of the program, but also preserve a set aside for the smaller businesses and those that were not in an ongoing bankable situation. And as a result, it came upon the fact about $300 billion is in the bill for the payroll protection plan. They have set aside $60 billion for these small businesses and those that were unable to establish a banking relationship and therefore apply, along with the hospitals, and testing for about $100 million will be added to the bill. And that's the package that is being presented to the Senate this afternoon, supposedly around 4 or 5 o'clock. And it's expected to pass, according to both Republicans and Democrats. And then it will move to the House because there will not be unanimous consent. Members are now driving back to Washington to vote on Thursday to complete this bill. And it's expected that the president will sign that. Now, the most important thing out of all of that, besides the funding, is the fact that the monetary experts, people in the banks and so forth, are estimating that it is only going to be open for 3 to 4 days before this entire package that I just mentioned will be expended by all of those that are in the pipeline. So what we are trying to do is get the word out to particularly the smaller businesses that if you have any plans to enroll in this, you've got to basically get the plan ready and wait for the online signal to be developed the minute the president signs that. But it is going to be a very, very short time before they will shut that off again. And as a result of that, and because of what has happened previously, this morning, very pleased to report that under the leadership of Peter McDevitt and the Local Development Corporation with the members with Brad and Craig and Matt and Gene, we were able to come together with a $15,000 loan package that we're working right now with Don Lehman and Rob in IT to get this up and running on the county website. It'll be on the EDC website, and we are also going to be distributing this to supervisors to have available at their particular town halls to get these applications out right away in that respect. So I think that this can help some of those very small sole proprietorship businesses. Those are the monies that can be utilized for are more flexible. There is not a requirement of so much of that money has to be spent for payroll or spent for payroll taxes, but it can be used to pay rent, it can be used to pay mortgage, it can be used to pay working capital going forward in order to help the individuals. Also, while that's happening, we are also entertaining some other economic business for those that are very optimistic and looking to get out of this negative spin here by sitting down and talking to us by Zoom with some loans under our regular loan program as well. So I think we're trying to keep track of what's happening at the national level, but more importantly, what can we do locally? And I think that's the purpose of this task force here, is to bring all of the various connecting parts together, Mr. Chair, to make that happen as well. The one disappointment was the effort that was underway in order to expand this to include state and local governments in this package. We're hopeful that that will be incorporated into the next round because monies certainly are going to be needed into the counties based on Treasurer Swan's report from last Friday as well as localities in the other as well. Governments are made up of very important components in a community, from the Department of Public Works to public health to police, fire, emergency, and the counties are in need of money, as well as municipalities in our area. The monies aren't going for brick and mortar. They're going to continue to make the counties move, such as your rather abbreviated meeting at Public Works this morning, to see all of the activities that the county is trying to force and get open again on doing that. So the other point will be is that the city was able to get a stimulus check that is forthcoming in the amount of $288,000 that will be utilized to assist with some of the not-for-profits that are providing some service to some of the residents in Glens Falls.
Is that it, Ed?
That is it for now.
Fantastic. Thank you. Any questions for Ed? And don't take off yet, Ed.
No, I'm not going anywhere.
So no questions. One of the things that, just for the committee, I've been remiss on is thanking both Ed Bartholomew and Michael Biddle for their assistance with the task force, their collaboration, working together to get a letter out to our federal representatives. We met for the first time last Wednesday as the task force. We planned on meeting Friday to get together to talk about this letter. Things changed because these two gentlemen had their ear to the ground with our federal representatives. We got together Thursday, and Thursday afternoon, this letter was drafted and sent out. And I'll let these guys talk about the reception we got from our federal representatives, but it was a great effort in terms of collaboration and moving quickly. And publicly, I want to just recognize both you guys for just pulling together and making that happen. So thank you, Ed, Michael.
Well, you're welcome. I think it was a collaborative effort. And while we were initially disappointed, I think that there's a recognition by all three of our Washington representatives, Congresswoman Stefanik, Senator Gillibrand, and Senator Schumer, that there needs to be consideration for state, county monies to assist us in this particular undertaking. My concern, and I think I'll let Michael speak to that as well, is the fact is that there is a growing trend in Washington among some representatives that we're printing a lot of money. Well, albeit needed, they're beginning to, I see a growing revolt against spending a lot more money. And I hope that states and localities are not sacrificed when it comes down to another allocation. And I just thought a delay will intensify this effort. So I think that we should be prepared to have another charge on this when we get a sense of when they will be coming back in May to assist in our effort. Can't thank enough the Steve Aquario from the Association of Counties, as well as the National Association of Counties, led by Matt Chase, to assist and advocate on behalf of the county for these added funds.
Thank you, Ed. Michael, anything to add?
Maybe one or two things. Ed,
There are.
Ed and I have been bothering each other quite a bit lately. Ed, it's always a pleasure working with you. A lot of you don't know that Ed and I have known each other for, well, I'm going to say it, Ed, 35 years. So a lot of comfort and a lot of great knowledge and workability between the two of us. Ed really hit on a lot of high points. I'm just going to follow up with a couple of things and a couple other key points regarding our economy. And one of them is the letter that Ed referred to that we sent to Senator Schumer and Gillibrand, as well as Congresswoman Stefanik. And it centered around the further funding of the Paycheck Protection Program, the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program for our small businesses. It's centered around the need for Medicare formula by Congress that needs to change to allow more funding to come to New York State hospitals. Ed had thrown out in our meeting last week that our local hospitals are only getting about $12,000 per COVID patient, while North Carolina is over $200,000 per patient. So we're hoping to work on that. We stress the need for local government funding as not only for the cities, that was put in there for the first round, but rural local governments. And then the fourth thing that we looked at, and I'll expand on here right now, is the J1 program. The need that when we do open the economy back up, that our robust area has the workers it needs to operate and do what we need to do. So we received within about 30 minutes responses from each of those, both senators, top of their staff, and the congresswoman's staff. So I was really pleased about that. And we engaged them in conversation on the needs for our region, and especially J1. The governor last week said on a Monday that Governor Cuomo did on a Monday that on Wednesday, all employers need to supply masks to their employees who have contact with the public. I think the governor's heart's in the right place. I think he's trying to do the right thing, but 2 days to acquire masks that nobody can get is really tough. So that spurned us, and I spoke with Gina up at the Lake George Chamber, spurned us in action on J1, that if there are going to be guidance from the CDC on people coming into this country, so J1 visa workers come in for about 90 days. And if we're going to have guidance around that, say the program re-ups on June 1st, we don't want guidance from the government on June 1st. We'd like to be part of the conversation. We'd like to be proactive about it. Do we need to quarantine these people? Do they need to wear masks and gloves for X amount of time, and so on? So those conversations are ongoing. Caitlin Rooney from Senator Gillibrand's office has been a pleasure to work with. I wanted to also address today, President Trump issued that he's going to halt immigration through an executive order. It looks like initially there will be an exemption for doctors under J1 and farm workers, H2A. And I'm very familiar with H2A program, but we need to get this expanded and done right, especially as data moves every day, as y'all know. And then so we've reached out to Washington, D.C. and to our representatives on this immediately. And then as a side note, with PPP and EIDL funding, our local banks have done an outstanding job. Ed, would you agree with that? Outstanding.
They're really our local banks, and we can name them because I think it's important, Michael, to not in any necessary order, but Glens Falls National, Adirondack Trust, and NBT. Also, Berkshire Bank has stepped up in the SBA world, and even some loans. I shouldn't say it that way, but TD Bank has been. All the banks have been receptive, but I know for a fact Mike Murray of Adirondack Trust and Glens Falls National were working, in Berkshire were working right through the weekends over the last couple of weekends, and I'm sure they got tired of hearing from you and I during the course of the last couple of weeks about things, as well as many other officials in the area that were trying to do the best. And I think they did a great job considering the fact that they kept having the orders changed more often than the agenda of the county supervisors with the committee meetings. It was just unbelievable how they had to rush, change applications for those that were working on it, had to change the applications over the weekend in order to comply with the new regulations. So a tip of the hat to all of the banks and also the professionals in the accounting firms and in the law firms in the area that participated with their clients.
To put it into perspective for everyone on the call, Adirondack Trust did 3 years worth of loans in 5 days. I mean, think about that. 3 years worth of loans in 5 days under pretty sketchy guidance and not final guidance from the SBA and from the government. So we're still working on that final guidance for loan forgiveness for the Paycheck Protection Program. Hopefully we'll see some guidance on that next week. The banks need to know what are the rules to forgive all or part of these PPP loans. And the last thing that I'll hit on here is the cooperation between the EDC, the ARCC, the Lake George Chamber, and Warren County Tourism regarding open for business. Sarah hit some of that on the website regarding our restaurants, regarding a gift card program. Really blessed to be working with everybody on that around the county. And the last one is we're taking a role in our nonprofits. Our nonprofits are short on volunteers. As you can all imagine, most of the volunteers, a great portion of the volunteers for our nonprofits in Warren County are seniors and retired, and some of the most susceptible to coronavirus. So great people like Kiwanis, the Lions Club have stepped in to deliver food for folks like the Salvation Army and so on. And the last thing I'll note, and while we don't have a number of farmers in Warren County, you'll notice that a lot of dairy products are short on the shelf. It's not a farm issue. Washington County, Rensselaer, and so on, Saratoga County still are producing the food. There's a processing issue. Unfortunately, due to the coronavirus, a lot of New England processors just have issues with people going to work, either falling ill with coronavirus or worried about the virus. So it's a processing issue. But I'd urge all of you, if you know a farmer, please thank them tremendously, because I think they get left off the front line thank yous and attaboys. And if you have a chance, please reach out to a farmer and thank them tremendously. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Michael. And just for everyone on the line, as far as the Economic Recovery Task Force, Chris Duffy, Dr. Duffy, Ed Bartholomew, Michael Biddle, and Liza, who is scheduled to be up next, who won't be, and I'll explain for a minute. But I just wanted to shout out to these guys, because we're so fortunate to have their energy and their expertise to help us make this happen. And more will be involved. But right now, I have my hands full just kind of keeping an eye on what these guys are doing. They're just all over the place. It's awesome. So thanks again, guys. Liza, if you don't mind, I'm just going to interrupt the agenda just for a minute. There's a special guest that came up at the last minute, and that's one of the reasons why the agendas are so long. But there's a gentleman on the line. I can see him. His name is Dave Wolf. Dave is a resident of Saranac Lake. He's also one of the people that's been involved very heavily with the broadband expansion in the North Country. He reached out to me yesterday with an issue and an opportunity involving Spectrum and Charter, their higher level corporate entity, and the FCC. So Dave, if you want to just take a couple of minutes, I know we have some supervisors on the line that are probably quite interested in what you might have to say about broadband expansion.
Thank you very much, Mike. Do you want me to talk about hotspots first?
You can. Thank you. That's another piece. So you have 2 minutes. I'm kidding, but let's be
okay.
brief. It can happen.
Let me focus on hotspots first. With everybody telecommuting, telehealthing, teleschooling, et cetera, there's a premium, obviously, on access to high-speed broadband. And with COVID-19, what we're seeing is a number of the providers like Slick, West Telecom, PrimeLink, Hudson Valley Wireless are setting up hotspots, public hotspots, where people can come stay socially isolated in your car and get access to good internet. Jason Guzzo, that many of you may know, general manager of Hudson Valley Wireless, was thinking, and he said in his mind, you've got a lot of community anchor institutions, schools, libraries, et cetera, that currently are closed, but they have great broadband access, typically gigabit speeds behind the scenes. And if a town has a need for a public hotspot, and we could probably very quickly access the broadband that is in a school or in a library and set up a wireless access point out in a parking lot. Very straightforwardly, you would literally take a cable, it's called a Cat6 cable, connect it to the, if you will, the connection back in the school, and bring it through a window. That's simply out to a wireless access point. You could cover upwards of 30 cars with speeds that are cable-like speeds. The cost to do this would be, and it's a location dependent, but hardware is in the order of less than $1,000. Labor would be in the order of less than $1,500. for the first access point would be something on the order of $2,500. Then the next one would be even cheaper. So that's something that just to think about if you're looking, if you need in a town public access, you don't have it, this is something that could be done reasonably quickly using the capability that's at a town hall or a school or a library. So I throw that out there. Any questions on that one?
Thanks, Dave. It's Mike. I would like to add that there's been change in regulations where normally the schools couldn't do that because of restrictions on their funding, but that's been waived, if I'm not mistaken, right, Dave?
That has been waived. So the E-rate funding that normally you can't use for the public, in this case, especially during the COVID-19 crisis, you can have access to the school's broadband for the public with no problem.
Thank you. Supervisor Bramer, I thought I might hear from you on this topic.
No, that's
You've been
really
very
great.
helpful,
Yeah,
by the way.
Dave, thanks for sharing that with us. I've been working with Supervisor Wild to go and others in our county planning department, particularly Sarah Frankenfeld, put together a map of the Wi-Fi hotspots that we have in the county. And we have been able to cover a lot of areas. If you go to our new COVID resources page that Sarah just went over, you can see the map and a lot of areas are covered, but I'm sure there are other places where we've got town libraries and town halls that aren't quite, the strength isn't strong enough to get out to the parking lot. So that would, I encourage our town supervisors to take a look at that for their towns.
And thank you for the comment on the map. Any of that information, I'm trying to get it coordinated also to be able to get out on our website. So as an observation, the state of Vermont has, if you go to their website, they've got every public hotspot in the state of Vermont that's located. And I'm trying to encourage that New York State do something similar outside New York City like that, because right now it's all catch as catch can. But well done if you've got that up in Warren County.
Yeah, I can shoot you that link offline.
Please, thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Mike.
You're welcome.
The
Dave,
other
FCC?
the other topic is the Federal Communications Commission. April the 10th, a week ago Friday, charter, well, let me back up a sec. The FCC has announced, it's called the Rural Digital Opportunity Fund, RDOF. It's a fund of just over $20 billion to help with broadband expansion in rural parts of the United States. Phase one of that fund is to award $16 billion, and the applications for phase one will start in the fall of this year. They'll use a reverse auction, and it will be focused at the census block level. It's the way the FCC works. So providers, they've actually got a map that you can, it's an interactive map. You can see which census blocks in the United States will be eligible for funding. The new news is our friends Charter on the 10th of April petitioned the FCC to exclude 2,100 census blocks from the state of New York from that program. They want to take them out of the program. Their claim is that they are obligated to cover those census blocks by their agreement with New York State. The answer is not quite. The problem we've got here is if you're a provider and if you are awarded money, you must build out the broadband to everybody in each awarded census block that you get. That's key. So that's the good news if you win an award. If Charter is able to pull these 2,100 census blocks off the table, they are not obligated to build out. They're not even obligated to build into these census blocks. As a matter of fact, their argument to the FCC is, if you do this for us, you can use the money that you save and give it to other states. I'm going, So what we're asking people to do, and unfortunately it's a very short fuse on this, is literally today the comments have to be in, is we're asking anybody, especially on the municipality side, that agrees, that opposes this petition for waiver from Charter, to send an email to Jessica Hernandez, who's in Gillibrand's office. She's kind of pulling these together. I have put together a very formal letter from my organization that outlines all of the issues to go back and formally oppose what they're trying to do. But the bottom line is we think to have charter exclude 2,100 census blocks from the $16 billion program that the FCC has is going to be really detrimental to the state of New York. That's it at a very high level. There's a lot of details. Is that enough high level, Mike?
It's high level for sure. Any questions from anyone? Supervisor Sieber.
Thanks. I'm just trying to lower my hand on the screen here. I just had a question, and I'm sorry to Mr. Wolf. I meant to ask it previously, and I just don't think it got caught about your comments about the public Wi-Fi hotspots. Would it be okay if I just jump back for a second?
Sure.
Thank you. I wondered, how are you addressing, and perhaps this is more of a question that, Mike Biddle, I know Chris Duffy is off the line now, but how are the security concerns being addressed with those public hotspot areas? I know you talk about social distancing and being able to do that from a car, but, I've talked to some college campuses or some other places where everything is kind of literally on lockdown. We're not having a lot of things in session, but as you mentioned, there's some wonderful capabilities for hotspots. I can see how municipalities might be able to take advantage of that, but what has been the practice with private entities or schools in allowing that type of hotspot accessibility from cars? One of the concerns I hear is security, liability, things like that.
Security in what sense?
Well, you'll have a lot of people gathering in a place in cars when a campus would normally be closed or closed off to employees.
Oh, I got you. The fair question. The implication here is that you'd stay in your car, and that I'm just thinking about the schools and libraries that I know. The parking lots are all open. In fact, there's the library in town is you park on Main Street. So the access is there today. I'm not sure.
For example, our school campus in Queensbury, we literally have things blocked off, so that there can't be that drive-through. The SUNY Adirondack, with some of those areas are also limited. So that concern, as we've been approaching people about these hotspots, that concern about security measures and being able to, I don't want to say police because that implies the wrong word, but being able to monitor that has been raised. So I just didn't know if you had any experience or feedback with that, and certainly something I can look into.
No, I don't.
Okay, thank you very much. But the information was incredibly helpful. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
So David, as far as the FCC issue and Spectrum and Charter, I know we talked about it yesterday. You mentioned like 100,000 people possibly.
Oh, thank you. Right. The state of New York's done a great job between the new New York broadband program and the Spectrum agreement with New York to build out their network to an additional 145,000 households. The goal was to get to 100% of the state connected at high speed. The reality is that we're going to get to about 99%. My guesstimation is that means it's about 100,000-ish households that will not have access to a high speed as defined by the state of New York. When all is said and done, they'll be underserved. And unfortunately, as you might guess, a bunch of that 100,000 is in the North Country. And what we're trying to do is maximize the use of every program available, RDOF being one of them, to be able to find money to reach out to those remaining 100,000 households. I can't tell you how many are in Warren County. I can't tell you how many are up in the North Country. I just know we have probably more than our fair share of that 100,000.
So thank you, Dave. Any questions from the other supervisors? And is there any interest from any other supervisors to dig into this more and if you want to pursue a letter?
What we've done is and I can send to Mike, it's Elise Stefanik did a nice job. It's maybe 3 or 4 sentences long where she went formally on the record with Chairman Pai at the FCC and we can steal shamelessly from her note, just send back a note to Jessica to go on the record. Or you can formally go to the FCC website and actually submit a comment. I know Andrea, I see on, has done that, so thank you very much. I appreciate your support there. So the bad news is you have literally no time, and I apologize for that, but we found out literally on Friday.
So it's a call to action, and that's why Dave is here and was kind enough to get on the phone and alert me, and kind enough to take time today to sit through these long committee meetings. Any other questions for Dave? Andrea?
Thank you, Chairman.
You're welcome.
Do you think we could pull it together to get a county letter done by today?
If we think there's enough support for something like that, it's my question to the committee. Are there others that are in favor of doing that? Mr. Leggett? I'm not sure else. Are there other supervisors that might be opposed to doing something like that?
Mr. Chairman, I'm not opposed, but could you just restate specifically what you're asking of the committee?
Well, and basically it's a letter to the FCC, and Dave, and maybe you can just help me with this, Mr. Wolf, Dave. It's a letter stating that we want the FCC to not consider spectrum.
I can just read one real fast for you. I strongly oppose Charter's waiver request to the FCC as it would reverse much of the eligibility for rural communities to access broadband project funding through the RDOF program, et cetera. So it's a couple of sentences basically to go on the record that says you are in opposition to Charter's petition for waiver, is what it's formally called.
Supervisor Sieber.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There I am. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wondered what is Chairman Thomas still on the line, or our administrator from Ryan Moore, their recommendation?
No, wait. No, I'm going to shut it down.
Oh, who's shutting it down?
I think someone that should be on mute.
Mute.
I'm kidding.
Ryan Moore, can you come off mute, maybe comment?
I'm begging not to have to draft a letter. I haven't even drafted my morning update yet, and I've got 400 plus emails that have come in during these committee meetings that I need to respond to.
I just wrote in the comments that I will be willing to draft something if you'd like that.
How about if we have this?
I'll help.
I'm sorry.
Is our chairman on board with this in terms of our chairman of the Warren County Board of Supervisors?
Mr. Thomas? Chairman Thomas? I'm not sure if he's even part of the group.
I would be in support of it if Andrea and Claudia also spoke with Frank to, maybe quote him or sign off or get his opinion on it.
I'm really good at ghost drafting, Rachel. I'll make sure that we pass it by him. For his signature.
Input, but thank you.
For his signature and his input. I can't imagine he would be against this. Well,
okay.
Maybe I shouldn't speak for him.
Claudia, what I will do is I will send you the information that I have from Dave Wolf and make sure you get a sense of that.
I hear my voice or my name being mentioned here, so I'm back. I have a town board meeting tonight, so I was a little busy with that. But yes, I'd be more than happy to sign on to a letter. And it sounds like Mr. Wolf has a letter that's very, very well worded. So I don't think we have to reinvent the wheel.
Fantastic. Supervisor Hogan and Supervisor Simpson, I see you.
Yeah.
Supervisor Hogan, did you have something you wanted to add?
Not at this time. I'm psyched. We're gonna write this letter. I think it's really important.
Okay. Supervisor Simpson.
I'm all good with the letter. I just wondered if our census blocks are the ones that are being part of, they're being blocked from this funding.
I don't know.
We may not be at a disadvantage.
Chairman.
Supervisor Hogan.
I know in my town I have several that potentially could be.
Oh, there are certainly a lot of census blocks eligible for the program in Warren County. I can't tell you if these are going to be the ones excluded.
Supervisor Simpson, do we need to look into that before we?
I just wondered, I just want to make sure that the letter actually pertains to our particular issue in Warren County. I mean, I'm all good with passing, writing a letter, but I just want to know if it's going to address the issue that we have in Warren County.
And if you don't mind, Dave, did we have any insight in terms of what Census Block Spectrums has requested or included in that list?
I don't have it at the moment. It's, their formal petition for waiver says 2,127 census blocks. So it's more of a statement from the state of New York saying, this would adversely impact the state specific and may impact every specific townships. We just don't know which ones yet.
Okay, Supervisor Hogan.
While they didn't delineate which specific census blocks, if you have census blocks awarded to charter in your town, then it impacts you. So I know that it could potentially impact us.
And there's an interactive map that we can share with you that allows you to drill down to see if any of the eligible census blocks would be in your hometown, but they're all over the state of New York.
Thank you, Dave. Anyone else? With that, we'll move on. Supervisor Bramer, I can get you in touch with Dave Wolf and get you some information, and let's see if we can get something done here quickly. Dave, you said that this needs to be done by tomorrow?
No, it has to be submitted if you're going to submit to the FCC through their online email submission process today.
Today. Supervisor Bramer, is that okay?
I can get it done if Frank is ready to sign.
Okay.
And Supervisor Hogan has been successful at doing it already.
Yeah, maybe we can copy and paste her letter too.
Thanks. I'm going to rely on you guys and get with our chairman, Thomas.
Sure.
But Dave,
Email
thank
it to
you
me.
so much for joining. Any other questions?
I thank you very much for your support and your time, everybody.
Excellent.
And good luck. Stay well.
Speaking of us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on, I was going to bring up Liza to talk about workforce, but I'm going to just jump backwards just a little bit, if you bear with me. Beth Gillis from the Champlain Lake George Chamber of Commerce was going to be on talking about the loan fund she has. And Liza, I'm not sure if you're aware of this. You want to take it on, or do you want me to continue? You can just nod your head. I got it. Okay. So I just briefly wanted to make sure that you understood that whoever's here understood that they have on their website, lclgrpb.org. Just Google Lake Champlain, Lake George Regional Chamber. But there is a revolving loan fund that they have in addition to the CARES Act. It might be a part of the CARES Act also, but it's specifically a business interruption micro loan program, anywhere between $5,000 and $25,000 at a 5% fixed rate. And if I'm understanding it correctly, it's somewhat like a block grant for, it wouldn't be for like the city of Glens Falls, but it's more for rural areas. So it's an opportunity to take a look at that if that fits. And one of the next times we get together, I'll ask Beth to explain some more about that. And now on to Liza. Liza with Workforce. If you don't mind, you have a lot to tell us. I'm sure.
Yeah, don't mind at all. Good afternoon. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, everybody, for the opportunity. And I'm grateful for the social interaction. I have updates to share in about 4 categories: unemployment, job opportunities, initiatives, and concerns. If we don't mind holding questions till the end, just want to be mindful of the chairman's agenda and everybody's time. And also I may be addressing some of your questions as I move through to initiatives and concerns. So I'll start with unemployment. In the next 10 days or so, we should have the data disaggregated from Department of Labor about the unemployment rates for our county. So I'm looking for that daily. And as soon as I have that out, I'm more than happy to share that information. The new process that Department of Labor has been doing with online submissions for claims and calling people back instead of a lot of people having to call in to file, we think has definitely been more helpful. About 3-4 weeks ago, we had on average 50 calls a day to our main line with concerns about filing for unemployment. And now that's down to about 15 to 30 calls a day. Basically people wondering, the status of their claim, and our DOL colleagues are also, our regional DOL colleagues here are supporting the Albany office with making some of those UI processes. They were actually reassigned to support UI processing. And so our staff from Warren County Employment and Training has been also assisting, not with UI processing, of course, but with following up with local residents whose claims have already been filed. So our Warren County Employment and Training employees are asking residents if they're kind of self-reporting if they feel like it's a temporary layoff. And many of them, most of them, I would say 3/4 of them are self-reporting as a temporary layoff. So they plan to return to their previous employer when everything is lifted. The other thing that our employees are doing when they're making those calls is letting them know that we're still offering about 90% of our services remotely. And they're able to do that from home to make sure that they're helping people with job searching and resume building, training opportunities online, and any other questions they may have about employment and training, and then guiding them to other resources for unemployment questions. We've only received a few warn notices so far for our county, and that's a good thing, but we know that that data will change week to week, and we'll be working closely with Department of Labor for their rapid response program. I had a great call with them last week, and they are happy to help us if there are businesses that we're extremely worried about who have warn notices. And even if those are smaller businesses with under 50 employees, they're happy to support us through that program. They work closely with us, the career centers, to make sure that we're supporting all of those employees and businesses. And I'm in touch with the chairman and county administrator whenever we receive those warn notices from Department of Labor, or if they're sometimes they're submitted to the local workforce development board, and sometimes they're submitted to the county. So we're all in touch about those warn notices, but so far only a few. Job opportunities. There are many businesses hiring, and you can see those jobs. They're posted daily on nyhirenow.usnlx.com, or if you just do a Google search for NY Hire Now, it will come up, and you can search by town, and there are definitely hundreds of jobs in our area right now. The main industries that we are hiring for in this area are medical fields, manufacturing, food service, and grocery and hardware stores. I had a company call me yesterday, a local company in Queensbury, and they need more employees for manufacturing and customer service. So there are people hiring, and that's good news. Initiatives. So we're really pushing out online learning right now. We have the free online metrics learning program with thousands of courses, and some businesses are taking advantage of that opportunity right now while there is a downturn in business to upskill their employees. And so I really want to thank Sarah Frankefeld and Don Lehman for getting that information out to the community about the online learning opportunities. We're also encouraging people to use the online learning opportunities that SUNY and BOCES offer. We do have training funds available for individuals who are eligible, as well as businesses, which is something that people may not be aware of, but we can support businesses with upskilling and training their employees during this time. So I'm happy to support anybody with that information. For the Taste of Optimism, we're also taking that another level. So I'm working with the chambers and the tourism department to figure out how we can support our families in need in the area while making sure that people can buy meals for those families in need. So that's also keeping our restaurants going. So kind of 2 for 1. And we're working on that right now after tourism and ARCC sent out a survey to restaurants to figure out who else wants to participate in this initiative with us. So we're excited about that and working every day on that. We learned last week that there's a dislocated worker grant under the CARES Act. U.S. Department of Labor announced that last week, and New York State is one of the lucky states that's going to be receiving funding from the dislocated worker grant. So $12 million are coming to New York State, and I'll be working with the Economic Recovery Task Force to figure out how we can advocate for more of those funds for our area. We really want to highlight that our area is unique in the fact that we have this wonderful tourism industry, but it has been greatly impacted, and we want to advocate for more funds, more of that $12 million to come to our region. So we're working on that this week. I also have a call with NIATEP tomorrow, New York Association of Training and Employment Professionals, and they are a wonderful asset to have on our side with sharing with us how we can lobby for more funds, and then how we can address issues together. So they're hearing from employment and training professionals from around the state, and we'll be sharing resources and information tomorrow. So I'm looking forward to that membership call with them tomorrow. And then finally, I wanted to share certainly the concerns, and some of them may be on your radar already, and some of them may not. Definitely, we know the international workers we rely on throughout the summer. So I'm in touch with Gina Mincer from Lake George Chamber about what the best case and worst case scenario would be. So, and last time I spoke with her, she may have more updates today, but last time I spoke, that she was predicting that maybe we would have some workers come from some countries, but not others. And so worst case scenario, we'd have to find, 1,500 employees to fill some of those positions, because some of them worked more than one position. Best case scenario might be just 500, but there's so much up in the air because we could be a partial opening for the tourism season, right? If hotels and campgrounds have to be at 50% capacity. We just don't know yet. Those things are changing daily. So hopefully in the next few weeks we will know, but I'm planning for best case scenario and worst case scenario for how we get people back to work to fill in any gaps that our international workers had. No news, it's not new news to anybody that older workers are more at risk. So that's another concern the Economic Recovery Task Force will definitely be considering with Department of Public Health. How do we protect our older workers who are more at risk as we open up our economy and return to some work in many more industries? And so that's something as well we want to keep on our radar. And then the biggest concern, of course, that I've talked a lot about recently and hope to learn more information how to address it tomorrow with NIATEP is the unemployment payments. Through July, with the extra $600 from the federal government, is actually putting a lot of our workforce, they're making more money on unemployment than they would in their job. And how are we going to get them back to work when there are childcare concerns with schools closed and daycares closed, and get them back to work for less money? And so I'm hoping to get more information from NIATEP tomorrow about their guidance and suggestions and what they're hearing about how to address that. But that is one of our biggest concerns, if not I would say is our biggest. And so with the childcare and transportation is just getting people off of that unemployment that goes through July if we're going to open back up this summer for people to return to work. And with that, I'll take any questions anyone has. That was a lot of information. I'm sorry if I was going too fast, trying to be mindful of the agenda and the timeline.
It's important to hit all these different topics because they just overlap and they all impact what we're trying to do in terms of supporting our residents and thinking about economic recovery. So, Liza, thank you so much. Are there any questions? I can only see a few on the screen at a time. Thank you, Liza.
Gina Mincer here. Just a quick question about the job opportunities listings. If you could send that out in the minutes, the link for that and how employers can send their information.
Sure.
Thank you.
Liza, if you can go directly to Gina. Thanks.
Sure.
Any other questions? Thank you, Liza. I appreciate it.
You're very welcome.
She has her hands into a whole bunch of things, and that's one of the reasons why she's on the task force. Going forward, though, another new addition to our discussion through a meeting or a phone call I had with Liza. She introduced me to Scott Sopchik. And I hope I didn't brutalize that name too badly, Scott, your last name. But Scott's with the Greater Glens Falls Transit, and I've heard that we're opening up bus transportation. So I thought it might be nice to let everybody know that that's happening and have the opportunity to ask Scott any questions. So Scott, go ahead if you don't mind, if you're ready.
Okay, can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to the committee. Let me, a couple things I'll go over and then I can open things up for questions. First, let me go over some of the challenges we've had with the COVID briefly. As you may be aware, on March 23rd, Greater Glens Falls Transit had suspended its regular transit operations. The reasoning for that was first the pause that was put in place by the governor, but also some things like environment inside of a transit bus is very challenging when it comes to communicable diseases, and there are some things, issues we had to address there. Also, a significant portion of our driver workforce is older. The average age of our full-time drivers is 63, so we had concerns about that. And then finally, we had probably 15 to 20% of our riders are choice riders, and we had some concerns. We did not want transit to be a vector where COVID potentially could spread around the community. So on the 23rd, we suspended service. We are, however, in that interim, we did a couple things. First, we wanted to be sure that we provided transportation for essential and emergency services. So we've been working with food delivery on an on-demand basis with some of the senior population. We've also been collaborating with the Salvation Army. They had some delivery challenges in getting quantities of food to some of the congregate senior housing facilities such as Cronin, Earl Towers, the Cedars, and Fishman Towers. So we've provided a bus where we've been delivering food to those facilities. So we've been doing that, and since that time, we've been able to address some of the concerns that we had that led to the shutdown. Specifically, we were the recipient of able to secure some CARES Act funding. I can talk about that a little bit more later, but one of the things that has done, the environment on bus and bus drivers is a very challenging environment. It's similar to, say, a cashier, only in some cases more so because it's a confined airspace. So we started up on a limited basis based on some of the concerns we have, but all of our employees have masks. We're requiring all passengers to be wearing masks, not only while they're on the bus, but also while they're waiting for the bus. We've reduced spacing on the buses. We've roped off seats, and we've marked some off, so we're at about 50% normal seated capacity on the bus. Some places like CDTA have been able to do things like rear door entry. Their buses are a little larger than ours. We only have one door, so that was not an option for us, but we reduced our capacity to allow an empty seat between any two passengers. We've also, with the grant they received, we've also suspended the collection of fares. The interaction between the driver and a passenger, where there was potentially some significant contact, but by suspending the collection of fares, it reduces that, not only on the bus, but in the office. Even though we have some automated counting machines, there's still a fair amount of manual handling of any fares that we do collect. We also disinfect the buses daily, and we've improved the ventilation. Warmer weather has helped with this, but we were able to move air more efficiently through and out of the bus while we're operating. So while we can't guarantee nothing is perfect, we've taken some significant steps to help control any potential spread of COVID and make it as safe as we possibly can. Moving forward, in starting up the service, what we've done, we've been tracking the calls, the inquiries that we've gotten, and we started with, we've got several people that needed work transportation, specifically out here to the airport industrial park. So we have 3 different employers who we have employees that are using the bus to come out here to work on a daily basis now. We've also have the basic serving some of the grocery stores and other essential needs. We've got scheduled service between Glens Falls and Fort Edward, and destinations in between to include the Queensbury Walmart, the Quaker Road Walmart rather, Market 32, and some other destinations along that way. We wanted to see how that was working with compliance with masks and a variety of other things, and the results have been good. And we're looking to build back incrementally going forward. What would be the best way to build service back? We wanted to ensure the basic mobility in the region for essential employment. We've been in touch with not only Lisa from Warren County Employment Training, but Glens Falls Hospital Human Services to see if there were any of their employees that were having transportation issues getting to and from work. And we'll continue to do that. But we're also, as we go back, looking if there are those kinds of situations where employers are having challenges in getting people to work, things like grocery stores, other service industry jobs. That's something that we're available to work on as best we can within our service area. And going forward, finally, too, the CARES Act funding that we did receive is going to keep us stable and give us some flexibility to respond to this, not only in the coming months, but it'll take us through 2020 and take us into 2021 as well, because even if things begin to die down and things open up to a degree, it's going to take a while with the recovery, and we want to be adaptable so we can adjust our services as most appropriately meet the needs of the community. So that's kind of where we're at. We're open to any inquiries, or we want to be able to be here as a resource as best we can. One of the things we're dealing with going forward is a number of other people have mentioned. Obviously, there's a lot of uncertainty, particularly with the coming summer season. We always do have challenges on the rider customer standpoint, one, but also with recruitment. Finding CDL drivers is a challenge for everyone. One of the things we have benefited from traditionally is we generally have an older workforce. In most cases, that works to our benefit. This is not really one of those cases. So going forward, there's a lot of unknown as to what summer service demand is going to be, and not only that, but some of our regular drivers that have driven for us, it's not clear that they're going to be comfortable driving going forward. So that's something else that we're looking at appropriate ways to help address so that we can make sure we get service on the street. And that's it, Mr. Chairman. Now, any questions, be happy to discuss it for anything further.
Thank you, Scott. Any questions from the committee? And I know it's getting late, so I'm going to try to hustle this up a little bit. Gina, Joanne, can we talk about tourism briefly? What's happening? Gina, Joanne, are you guys there?
I'm here. Go ahead, Joanne.
Tina. Okay,
I'll follow your lead.
You got it. So there are many important aspects of the tourism industry in Warren County, and I will address things from a promotional standpoint. I know that there are other committees and subcommittees in my own department working on different things, but from a promotional standpoint, the quick high-level overview is that we reacted to the situation over the last 4 weeks. I mentioned before, no spending, organic social media, thoughtful content, and sharing things that are going on with our local businesses and updated information. We've had to think within the department. Our day-to-day responsibilities have changed, and we've worked quite a bit with our local government. You heard about Sarah's website, the Takeout Restaurant campaign, Safe Trails, and the face mask campaign that is launching today. Those things take up an incredible amount of time. Hats off to Sarah on the website. And we will continue to do this as we are called upon. When it's time to rethink about our visitors, the first thing we absolutely need to think of is safety. And we need to reassure those visitors that safety protocols are in place. They are looking for reassurance at a time of uncertainty. So, we've all thought about this: hand sanitizers, masks, and cleanliness, social distancing, and understanding that all of those come with an added expense. We also need to rethink what our local population will think of these visitors. We've already experienced this with the short-term rentals and the second homeowners, so we have to walk that fine line. When is it the right time to attract people here, and are our communities ready to welcome those people? We don't want to welcome them here and then have them feel like once they're here, they're not welcome or we're shaming them. So that's an important consideration. And how do we work with our local communities on that? The best case scenario I'm thinking in the very short term is a light summer, fall. We just heard that Mayor de Blasio has canceled events through June. So we know that that is going to impact the rest of the state. Our primary market is that Metro New York area. So what are those folks thinking down here, in the city and Westchester County and Connecticut? Do they want to get out of the downstate area? Yes, they certainly do. And we want them to come here and feel safe. But on the other hand, do people want to stay close to home and to an area that they are familiar with? So maybe we don't want to hard sell the New York City area, but maybe we look at regional travel. This is a safe environment, outdoors, fresh air, all kinds of family safe things for people to do. So maybe looking at that regional market or our secondary markets of Western New York or Hudson Valley, those might be an easier first market to attract. We also have to think about those folks that we're going to travel internationally and probably are not. So that means an increase in domestic travel. So how do we capture those visitors? And also understanding that we're all going to come back online at the same time or very much the same time. So we have to position ourselves as a unique destination. To that end, how would we deploy that? We need to create new content. Certainly within the department, we're working on that now. Itineraries have been mentioned. Some of these things that I hear on a number of webinars are really great ideas. Create itineraries that include social distancing activities and make it easy for people. Hey, is it safe for me to come to Warren County? Yeah, here's an itinerary I can follow, and I can still be safe and enjoy some time with my family. I don't think this is going to be a hard sell kind of a scenario. We need to set the tone for a personal touch and personal messaging, and just say, hey, come on here, enjoy time with your family when the time is right for you. And when we're ready to do this, digital first is the absolute easiest way to go. We've all become digital natives now that we have a lot of free time on our hands. Everyone knows that they're online with their grandparents on Zoom and FaceTime and TikTok. But we don't need to be on every platform. I think we just need to focus on the platforms that are working for us. And in this case, it's Facebook and Instagram. And those things are easy. We can be on and change our messaging at the snap of a finger. And all of that media can be placed by our in-house staff. So that makes it the easiest and the most sense way for us to first get our messaging across. There are many other scenarios that we need to consider, one of which is certainly that second wave of virus or restrictions. So I know that working with Gina and the other chambers and ARCC and Mike's committees, we will come up with these other scenarios. Just in terms of recovery, I think we have to think it's not immediate. It's going to be a multi-year effort. We absolutely have to follow our local and state health officials. We all have to work together and be sending the same message. And I will say that I'm working on my budget review now, my 2020. How much money can I save? Certainly we spend the bulk of our money in the spring, summer rollout. So there's money to be saved that we will be able to roll over to 2021. So I'm looking forward to working with my partners on the rollout of all of this. There you go, Gina.
Thanks, Joanne. Any questions for Joanne from the committee? I know it's getting late. Yeah, thanks. Your turn. Gina, you may be on mute.
Sorry, I was talking away and on mute. I didn't want to steal. I saw Christian on the call. I want to make sure that I didn't steal his thunder with Americade. And with regard to some of the aspects that Joanne mentioned on that soft rollout of things, we are getting a lot of requests now for travel guides. We had started for the chamber travel guides. So we did start a soft mailing of those, but they've started to come in more frequently as our message is out there of plan now, think about us. We're going to be ready for when you are going to travel. So we've been averaging 100 over the last 2 weeks of requests. I'll get another update today immediately after this call on a staff meeting. We are going to roll out with our partners with Warren County Tourism, ARCC, and Glens Falls Collaborative, a restaurant week. We will schedule a call for next week to see if we could schedule that and then have all of the assets of promotion ready. Typically, the chamber does one specifically in the Lake George area the second week of June, right after Americade every year. So we've been doing this for many years. So we wanted to do this where it would be, and that was a pay-to-play program, where this would be free for any restaurant throughout the county, but to get people not afraid to go into their restaurants and whatever that would look like when we are allowed to do that, all based on the governor's prerequisites and recommendations of what would it look like. But our restaurants are saying they're going to need that a bit of a jump start from knowing that they've got this whole other army of promotional opportunities for that. So more news to come on that, but another opportunity for everyone around the county to collaborate. The hiring, as Liza mentioned earlier, is a key factor. It's on everybody's minds of, who is going to be their next employee for when they are able to open from a lodging standpoint, because those J1 students did do a lot of work that our normal neighbors did not want to do or were not inclined to even need that job. So again, that is on everybody's mind. Getting ready for the season, the biggest thing that's come about from the business community has been construction. So right now, and I know it was earlier on the call with regard to under Kevin Hajos and other parts of the committees that were here today, was, there's essential businesses, but some of their construction in some people's minds are deemed as not essential. So for instance, if you need to ready your pool for later in the summer from a health standpoint, is that deemed essential construction for now, and keeping your staff safe while they're fixing or doing those maintenance for those lodging properties. So we're seeing differing towns offer differing interpretations of the governor's mandates or executive orders. So I throw that out there to many of our elected officials because, now is the time when our properties would be normally getting ready for the season anyway, and they are doing everything they can to keep themselves safe because they need their employees. They need their employees safe and healthy because those are dedicated, loyal employees that will get them through the season, whether we've got J1s or not. So I know that everything from landscaping to maintenance to fixing of certain things, and if you've got a plumber in one area, you can have an electrician in another. But just know that that's been my average. I'm averaging 4 calls a day over the last 8 days of, town of Queensbury has been really great. Thank you, Supervisor Stroud. And then other places have been a little tight on that. So I just throw that out there as you as elected officials are getting calls from folks to say, well, what can I do to be ready for when I can open? So that's it from that business and economic recovery and opening that I've got.
Thank you, Gina. That was quick. Any questions Regina. Thanks. I know it's getting late. I'm cutting the agenda down. So the next thing that I had, next couple of things, I'm going to just drop off the list. But I know that I think I saw Chris Hanshin on. I'm not sure if Ben is on or not, Ben Driscoll. But I did ask to have these gentlemen come in to just give us an update of what we're doing to support our workforce. What's going on with the safety nets? What's going on with these other pieces that are key to us right now, so that when it does come time for us to open, we can help make that stuff happen and make it happen quickly. So, Chris, I know you're here. I don't know if Ben is or not. Ben, are you in?
Here, Mike.
Thanks. You know, it's all yours, guys.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Buckle up your seatbelts. This is going to be quick and sweet, quicker than I've ever done. And I invited Chris to come on to do the second half of this quick presentation. Thank you to Sarah and to Don and all the community partners, Mike Biddle and everyone who's been able to get out information about not-for-profits and the food pantries that are in operations throughout the county. Certainly, they've changed the way they do business and their hours and sometimes days that they're open, but they are open. Thank you to all the volunteers. The map provides that information. The new target audience is certainly individuals and households that haven't traditionally gone to food pantries or applied for SNAP information. As you know, I'm an old school guy. I still believe that 50% of my constituents and the county residents derive a lot of their information from newspapers and paper flyers and brochures. Recently, I had a number of flyers that talked about the SNAP program, as well as gave the website for the food pantries printed. Amanda is helping me get that information out to all of the county supervisors. I dropped off a batch at the Glens Falls post office Friday afternoon. Saturday morning, I got a call from a resident of Queensbury, and I was able to mail him a SNAP application, a HEAP application. I'll also ask Chris to talk a little bit about the Home Energy Assistance Program, which is still available to residents, as well as encouraging him to get in touch with Office of the Aging to get himself back on the home delivered meals list. It's been 4 or 5 years since he was last on the deliveries. So the pantries are up and available. Community people who have been to the pantries should just get in touch with them before this to make sure that they're going to be open on that particular day. For new families, again, I invite them and encourage them. With the SNAP program in 2019, roughly 3,700 different households each month participated in that program. Certainly that number is increasing. Individual households that are income eligible because of the disaster for that program. I invite them to consider applying. It's an easy process, a little bit different process, but an easy process to do and get those applications out. And I encourage the supervisors to share that information at locations where people still visit, food stores, post offices, those types of places that people can go in and pick up that information, and also promote the online information that's out there. This coming Monday, the Salvation Army in Glens Falls is going to be doing a major distribution. I'm still getting information on that. They changed the location from their headquarters in Glens Falls just this morning. They authorized the fact that they're going to be at Aviation Mall in the front parking lot. I don't have all the details, but those will be going out in the next day or two, certainly before next Monday. And it's going to be available for all residents of the tri-counties and beyond. If you drive up, and you're going to have to drive up, there'll be volunteers who will prepare boxes and deliver those to cars. So there'll be more information about that. I keep in touch with Chris Hanchett. I thank him as well as Denise DeResta with Veterans for keeping me updated on what they're doing to make sure that as seamless a process continues to exist for getting information out to their clients, that clients can get information and valuable documents and communications back to them. They're doing a heck of a job. I truly believe that all departments and all of the different committees that we oversee are as important as each other. No one department is more important than the other. We're all in this together, just like the chain link. If one part is loose or breaks, it sends everyone into turmoil. So I appreciate that, and I'll pass the baton over to Chris.
Thank you, Ben. Chris?
Hi, everybody. First of all, I'd like to just give a quick update in regards to the programs here at DSS that we administer. We are functioning at full capacity for any emergency that any of your constituents or any of the residents of the county might encounter. We can handle pretty much anything that comes our way. We have about 15 to 20% of our staff rotating out. This is based on what we've been told we have to do. So we would like to have a few more staff here, but we don't. However, we've been very fortunate to have an IT department that has really stepped up and helped us be able to work from home and in the field. Of course, a lot of our programs, we do work in the field anyway, even without the COVID crisis, because we're 24/7. So, we had a lot of our like CPS, APS, homeless, runaway youth programs, those we run 24/7. So we were able to beef those up a little bit so that we could not have people reporting to work. We also have been able to handle all of our cash allotments, emergency TA, SNAP, and support programs, including daycare and burials. These are things that keep on happening, so we have to make sure that we're taking care of them. One of the things that I would like to mention is that we are servicing all our programs. However, we are not seeing clients at the building unless it's an absolute emergency or if someone demands that. In that case, we do have a clean room that we have set up here in the building so that if someone does come to the building, they don't have to worry about, having exposure to COVID. We worked with public health to make sure that we're doing this properly and that the protocols are in place to keep it actually clean. Our direct phone line is 518-761-6300. If anyone has an issue or thinks they need to get services, they can call that. We will get them in touch with a worker who will be able to handle whatever their needs might be. We are also making sure that our fiscal unit is up and operating so that all of our payments can go out in a timely manner. Mail and deliveries have been set up in a way that assures that we have the ability to get all the documents and paperwork that we need for clients. One of the other things that I would like to mention is that we have seen an uptick in homelessness, and we are able to handle that. We have a new program that we're working on actually today to make sure that if there is an excessive amount of homelessness, that we will be able to manage those clients as well. As far as HEAP goes, Ben did mention that HEAP is up and running. It closes on the 24th of April. And then the cooling component will be starting up May 1st. Face-to-face interviews have been waived for HEAP. So just call and we will take care of you there. The SNAP program has been amended a little bit. There's been some regulatory guidelines that have been lifted. We do not have to interview face-to-face. As long as they call, we can take care of them as well. Certification periods have been extended through April and May, and they've been extended for 3 months. So if your benefits were up in May or April, they will be extended out 3 months without you having to come to the building or show up to fill out additional paperwork. We have had quite a few new applications come in, probably about double the applications we had for the first 3 weeks of April compared to last year. So there's definitely a big increase in SNAP applications. Medicaid, we just got news that it's been systematically extended for 12 months. So if you have any Medicaid that comes up in March, April, or May, and including June, you will be extended for 1 year. After that, there can be 6-month extensions provided those experiencing the job loss are directly related to COVID and disabilities regarding COVID-related illnesses. We have also been able to keep our child support unit going. We are accepting payments here. One of the things that I would like to mention in regards to that is if people are getting a stimulus check and they have arrears on their child support accounts, that money will be intercepted. We have been told that that money will go to whether it's the mother or the father that's getting the child support. Lastly, I'd like to mention that Countryside is doing very well, despite the fact that there is, the sad component of that is that they can't have face-to-face visitors. We have gotten either Skype or Facebook face-to-face visits set up for just about anyone who wants them. Actually, Don Lehman had a really nice Facebook post the other day, which really generated a lot of interest. So thank you for that, Don. And Amy McBurn is coming up with some other new ideas that we'll be putting in place to brighten the days of some of the residents who are living at Countryside. Lastly, I would like to mention that I'd like to just follow up on Ben's information in regards to the Salvation Army Food Bank. That is happening Monday. It starts at 10 a.m. It will be at the Aviation Mall parking lot. And I would like to extend my thanks to everyone who's been very supportive to Department of Social Services, Ryan Moore, Public Health, Office of Emergency Services, DPW, Sheriff's Department. A lot of people have been very supportive. Everybody's been working together to try to pull this off so that our residents are taken care of and people remain safe. So I don't have anything else. Any questions? I'd be glad to answer them.
Thank you, Chris.
You're welcome.
This has been a long meeting and a long day. So I think I'm going to close this out. We'll talk about the Economic Recovery Task Force later. But I appreciate all those that have held on this long. Are there any questions that we should address right now? Any thoughts about shortening this up next time? Maybe we'll do multiple meetings.
Hi, Chairman Weil. It's Don Lehman. We did have some public comment if you want to hear that.
I'm sorry, Don. Sure, of course.
We did have two people comment on Sarah Frankenfeld's website, Tom Randall and Frank Dietrich, both were We're very impressed by it. Mr. Dietrich said amazing amount of information, well done. Tom said incredible. Mr. Dietrich also commented on the construction projects for businesses that are essential. He said the business guidance would be helpful for properties that are trying to open. Thank you. So if someone wants to reach out to him, see if there's any indication he wants to elaborate on his concerns there, we could do that.
Thanks. I've talked to him, but we'll keep him up to date on what the guidance is. Anything else from anyone? Thank you so much for attending today. Can I have a motion to adjourn? Supervisor Hogan, Supervisor McDavid, all in favor? Aye. Aye.
Bye, all.
We are adjourned.